Bel-Air came to an emotional and unforgettable close, with a finale that stunned longtime fans, casual viewers, and anyone who has followed the legacy of Will Smith. For 4 seasons, this reimagined universe took audiences on a darker, more introspective journey through the life of young Will, played by Jabari Banks. But nothing could have prepared fans for the closing moments, when the camera slowly pulled back. The music softened, and a familiar figure stepped into view, a figure that changed everything. In the final scene, the real Will Smith himself appears, not as a celebrity cameo dropped in for shock value, but as what seems to be the older, wiser version of the character audiences have followed since the beginning. It was the moment fans had been manifesting for years, a full circle return from the man whose legacy inspired this entire modern reimagining. The scene begins quietly, almost deceptively simple, with Will preparing for the next major chapter of his life, leaving California behind and returning to Philadelphia for college. The mood is somber, reflective, and heavy with uncertainty. And just when it seems like Will is about to walk toward his future alone, the older version of him, portrayed by the real Will Smith, steps into frame. He doesn't walk in with flashy energy or comedic timing. He doesn't mug for the camera or bounce with excitement. Instead, he enters with the calm, grounded presence of someone who has lived, survived, learned, fallen, risen, and grown. Someone who knows exactly what kind of advice a younger version of himself would need at a life crossroads like this. Stepping into the future is kind of scary, huh? The older Will says with a soft smirk. Jabari's Will stares at him with a mix of confusion and awe, like he's looking at a mirror reflecting not his face, but his destiny. The younger Will brushes it off, insisting he's cool, but the older Will chuckles knowingly. "It's okay," he says. "I won't tell your boys." The exchange feels natural, emotional, almost spiritual, as if the universe has allowed this young man a rare moment of clarity, by letting him meet the man he might one day become. And for fans of both the original The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air and its modern reimagining, this single scene felt like history folding in on itself. To make the moment even more powerful, Will Smith delivers a piece of advice that connects the past, present, and future in one breathtaking line. Don't worry about having all the answers. Nobody does, not even the people who pretend like they do. It's advice that resonates deeply with fans who grew up watching him as the charismatic kid from West Philly navigating life in Bel-Air. Now, decades later, he's the mentor figure, the guide, the seasoned elder, and the torchbearer of a legacy that began in the 1990s and continues to influence entire generations. The younger Will listens, processing each word. When he responds, it's with admiration. "Sounds like you got it all figured out, OG." But the older Will quickly dismisses the idea, reminding him, and the audience, that even icons, even legends, even cultural giants like Will Smith are still figuring life out as it happens. The humility in his response adds emotional weight, making the cameo feel not like a celebrity drop-in, but like a philosophical conversation between youth and wisdom. And then comes the moment that fans will undoubtedly replay for years. Jabari's Will opens up, admitting he's afraid of losing himself. "Now that I'm going back home," he confesses, "I'm scared I might forget who I became." The older Will pauses, locking eyes with him in a way that breaks through the screen. "That's good," he says slowly. "That means you've become somebody worth holding on to." It's a line that landed like a punch. Honest, raw, powerful, and rooted in the spirit of the original series. What makes the cameo even more meaningful is knowing that it almost never happened. In fact, years earlier, Will Smith revealed that during season 1, he nearly joined the show in a completely different role. The role of Lou, Will's father, originally portrayed in the reboot by Marlon Wayans. The idea was tempting, but ultimately, he turned it down because he worried it would feel too meta, too self-referential, too distracting from the emotional depth of the new cast. At the time, he said it felt a little too weird. And so he stepped aside, giving the younger generation the space to breathe and grow. But with the series finale, something changed. The timing, the story, the meaning, everything aligned, and suddenly, what once felt too weird became the perfect embodiment of growth and connection across generations. The cameo became not a gimmick, but a tribute to the character, to the fans, and to the enduring cultural impact of the original The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Longtime fans will remember that iconic set from the original series, the staircase, the living room, the Bel-Air mansion that became a symbol of hope, humor, and family. It all began in 1990, when a young, energetic, 21-year-old Will Smith stepped onto the set of a show that he didn't yet know would change his life forever. Back then, he was new to acting. No formal training, no theater experience, just raw charisma and a willingness to learn. He once said, "This is the first thing I've ever done acting." And yet, he created one of the most beloved characters in television history. Going back even further, fans know he once vowed never to revisit or remake The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air in any form. It was sacred to him, a personal, nostalgic, foundational part of his story. But everything changed the moment he saw the dramatic fan-created trailer that eventually became the basis for the modern reboot. What began as an absolute hell no, he once admitted, transformed into, oh my goodness, this could be spectacular. And that shift paved the way for Bel-Air, a bold reimagining that took familiar characters and storylines and infused them with new depth, new stakes, and new emotional realism. Now, after 4 seasons, as the streaming era allowed Bel-Air to reach millions through Peacock, the show closes its final chapter with the very man who started it all. His cameo isn't a goodbye, it's a bridge. It symbolizes the passing of a torch, the evolution of a story, and the idea that every generation can reinterpret and rediscover what came before them. On the set of the original series, behind the laughter and the bright colors, young Will found community. He often described it as being surrounded by people he enjoyed, people he learned from, people who shaped his early years in the industry. "I'm here all day acting silly, eating with people I have fun with," he once said. It was a dream job that launched a career spanning music, film, producing, and global influence. And now, decades later, he returns not to reclaim the spotlight, but to elevate the next generation standing in it. The finale doesn't rely on flashbacks or nostalgia gimmicks. Instead, it offers something more poignant, a conversation about identity, fear, growth, and the bittersweet transition into adulthood. Young Will's decision to return to Philly for college isn't framed as a retreat, but as a courageous step towards self-discovery. The older Will reminds him, and all viewers, that change is scary, but necessary. That evolution is uncomfortable, but powerful, and that leaving something behind doesn't mean losing it. The emotional heartbeat of the scene lies not just in the dialogue, but in the symbolism. Seeing the original Will and the new Will together is more than fan service. It's a dialogue between eras, an acknowledgement of legacy, and a visual reminder that growth comes from embracing both our past and our future. The cameo represents acceptance of change, of evolution, of reinvention, which is exactly what the reboot series has stood for since day one. As the camera fades out on their moment, the older Will leaves Jabari's Will with one last piece of reassurance. We're going to be all right. It's a line that longtime fans recognize instantly as the heartbeat of Will Smith's public spirit. Hopeful, warm, encouraging, and deeply human. In the end, the cameo is not about celebrity shock value. It's about storytelling. It's about honoring the roots of a cultural phenomenon while celebrating the new voice that brought it into modern times. It's about a legacy that started in 1990, found new life in 2022, and now concludes with the perfect intersection of past and present. Bel-Air didn't just end, it transcended, wrapping up with a moment that feels destined to live forever in pop culture. And that final message, delivered by the man who became a global icon, is one fans will carry with them long after the screen fades to black. We're going to be all right.